All right. Next up is our program today, and we're very honored to have Mark Young in here, and here to introduce him is Guy Pattison.
And a note to our guests, it's that warmth you just witnessed that keeps us all coming back every week. Today we have a legitimate civic club program. It's a good get if you're a program chair. In olden days, the archaic manner in which today's program would be described would be, hey, who's speaking at Rotary today? And the response would be, oh, the chamber guy. But it's not that simple anymore because the chamber guy really no longer exists as an individual, at least not in this market. The chamber, as we all know, is a large umbrella group, or a large umbrella, which a substantial team of guys and gals, men and women, go to work each day with the goal of improving quality of life on a variety of fronts in Jonesboro and Northeast Arkansas. As most of you know, the chamber, at least in these parts, is pretty deep and wide. Lots of committees addressing a variety of issues and needs. And our speaker today is Mark Young. He's president and CEO of the Jonesboro Regional Chamber of Commerce. He's had the gig since 2006. Economic development has pretty much always been his vocational deal. Prior to the Jonesboro post, he served as executive director of the Delta Center for Economic Development at ASU. That was 2000 to 2006. Before that, he was involved with economic development engagements in Wynne, in Forest City, Miami, Oklahoma, and Rockingham, North Carolina. He's a graduate of ASU with a BS in journalism and an emphasis in PR. In 1994, he earned the designation Certified Economic Developer. Before I forget, I'm thinking to myself, John had reminded me that Mark is also a Rotarian. Outside his immediate post, but consistent with what he does, Mark serves on the Arkansas District Export Council, and he's currently the chairman of the Northeast Arkansas Economic Development Coalition. On the home front, he's kept in check by his wife Mitzi and two sons, Alex and Adam. And since economic development is the slice of the pie with which Mark is most familiar as far as chamber work goes, I would imagine today we'll get an update on what's happening on the economic development front in Northeast Arkansas. Please welcome Mark Young.
Good afternoon. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. When I came in, I know most of you, so it's good to be with you and good to have an opportunity to visit with you. I also look out and recognize and realize that many of you are participants in the chamber and participants in Momentum Jonesboro, which I'll speak about in just a few minutes. So thank you for your support, and thank you for continuing to make our community a great community. I will echo as well the comments that Philip made earlier. I was at the City Council meeting on another issue and had the pleasure of hearing both Beverly and Jerry talk about the Centennial Project, and they did an outstanding job, and that project will certainly enhance our community, and I appreciate this club and what it does to really improve the quality of life and continue to support our growth as a community. So thank you for that. I thought what I would do today is talk a little bit about Momentum Jonesboro and give you a little background if you're not familiar with it and how it got started, what we're doing, and sort of where we are today. Momentum Jonesboro started actually as a process of our strategic planning initiative. Guy and several other people in this room that are on the Economic Development Corporation's board of directors a couple of years ago said, we really need to develop a new strategic plan. Most people refer to the first strategic plan that JEDC and Jonesboro Unlimited did in 1986, so over 30 years ago, as sort of the plan that got everything started. It was the plan, if you will, that identified the need for industrial property, and so the Craighead Technology Park was developed. It also identified the need for actually a private fundraising group called Jonesboro Unlimited. So it started as a result of that first plan over 30 years ago. And many, many other positive things came as a result. And it really became a reality because of the leadership at that time, knowing and understanding that to move the community forward, Everybody needed to work together for a common goal, and they did that. And the success has continued throughout those years. But a couple of years ago, our leadership said, it's time for us to revisit that. Even though new strategic plans had been developed over the years, they really wanted to take a fresh and new look at our economic development program and what we might need to do in the near term and long term to really move things forward, if you will. So we participated with an organization called Avalanche Consulting and put together a new strategic plan. And I was the first person that had an opportunity to actually look at the strategic plan in its draft form. Many of you participated in focus groups and surveys and all those kinds of things throughout that process, and I appreciate that. When I read the plan, the first time I thought, man, this is good. This is really, really good. And the second time I read it, I thought, how are we going to do all this? I mean, to say it's holistic and ambitious is an understatement. Our leadership recognized that too. And so they realized we were going to need additional resources to fully implement the strategic plan. And that was the goal, is not to have a plan that sits on the shelf, but to have a plan that we put into action and have a plan that at the end of the day has an impact on our community. So we went out and looked for someone to help us with that process, and we found NCDS, which is a consulting firm out of Atlanta, Georgia. And about a year ago today, actually, we started that process. So last July, the campaign for Momentum Jonesboro started. And it started with a feasibility study, and then it moved into a program refinement process that I'll talk about in just a minute. And then we really got into raising funds and raising opportunities for us, again, to move the community forward. Our goal was to raise $3.7 million over a 5-year period of time. And so we've had the benefit and pleasure to go out and visit with lots of businesses and individuals over the course of the last year. And I'll tell you sort of at the end of my comments sort of where we are today. But I cannot stress enough how thankful I am for the leadership we have in this community. The success that we have achieved thus far through the campaign is a direct result of the hard work and effort of all of our volunteers and people who are willing to pick up the phone and make phone calls and encourage people and talk to people about the importance of growing our economy and really not, relying on our past success for our future success. Really taking an ownership and making sure, again, that we move forward in a way that is meaningful and will help our community. So while funding is critical to fully implement our strategic plan, I would tell you, too, that the leadership and involvement from the private sector, our business community, is even more important. And we continue to see it over and over and over. And many of those leaders are in this room today. So thank you for your support. So I want to take just a few minutes to talk about the plan and what's in the plan. And then secondly, we'll talk about the impact of fully implementing the strategic plan. And lastly, we'll talk about where we are today, and probably most importantly, I'll answer any questions that you guys have. So as we got started, the strategic plan boils down to 3 key strategic initiatives. One is business attraction and expansion. That's what we do. That's what we are supposed to do. That's our job. Second is talent attraction and workforce development. And third is community enhancement or quality of life. And I'll touch briefly on each of these. Businesses all are cyclical, and we've had companies come to Jonesboro and are extremely successful, and we've had companies who've been in Jonesboro that are no longer in business. We have to continue to work for job creation. We have to continue to help our existing employers grow and expand. We have to be diligent to make sure that we have the kinds of infrastructure in place that can support businesses. So the idea behind business attraction and expansion is just that. How can we long-term grow our economy? What's our economy going to look like 5 years from now and 10 years from now? And I'll guarantee it's not going to look like it does today. It's going to be different. I think all of you would agree with that. So a couple of key ingredients to our business attraction and expansion program. One of the most important things we did in our strategic planning process was to look at our targeted industries. There are 5 sectors that we focused on, and some of these will be no surprise to you. But I'm going to mention them because each of them are extremely important to our strategic initiative. The first is ag business. Agriculture is important to Jonesboro and Northeast Arkansas, has always been and will continue to be. And so we want to make sure as an organization, as an economic development organization, that Jonesboro Unlimited continues to support that growth and expansion in ag-related activities and continue to do what we can in partnering with all those involved in that industry sector to help them grow and expand. The second is in advanced manufacturing. And that means a lot of things to different people, but for us it includes food processing, it includes equipment manufacturing, and a new one for us is pharmaceutical manufacturing as well. When you look at the assets that our community has, they really line up with each of those key target areas in advanced manufacturing for us, and we really feel like we can be successful. The pharmaceutical industry typically has been in the northeast part of the United States. They are starting to show a tendency to move south, and we think with some of the attributes that we have, we can be really successful in attracting them to our region. So that is a key for us. And if you'll remember, in 1986 is when the targeted process for food processing started. So we believe, just like we have had success with food processing, and we think we'll continue to have success with that, that we can have that same success in both equipment manufacturing and pharmaceutical manufacturing as well. Logistics is a key target for us. If you think about it, with the improvements to Highway 226, to US 67, with the dedication and formal designation of Interstate 555, there has never been a better time for us to promote logistics than now. And I will tell you that that continues to be an area of activity for us that is quite robust. We have lots of inquiries and lots of people thinking about investing in that particular area. We currently have 42 trucking firms that provide service to Jonesboro. 17 of those have a local terminal. We think that area of logistics warehousing is something that we can be really, really successful in. The next area is in healthcare. I'm not going to tell you that healthcare is important to our community and to this entire region. We're not going to get in the way of our great healthcare community and what they're already doing. But what we do hope to do is to make sure that we continue to work with our healthcare providers to make sure that we're doing what we need to do as an economic development entity to help them in the recruitment of physicians, help them in the recruitment of more entrepreneurial activities that are associated with healthcare, and then also make sure that we're doing as a community what we can do to make sure that we have all the success we can with the Doctor of Osteopathic Medical School that's on campus at Arkansas State University, because we know that there's tremendous upside for that process as well. And last but not least, professional services. When you look at our community, we actually have a deficit when you think about jobs in engineering, the IT industry, and accounting. And so we've targeted those professional services areas as well to try to grow our own, if you will, and also to bring and recruit new talent to the community that can help support our existing companies in those particular areas, but also for those entrepreneurs in those sectors to move here and to have successful businesses here as well. So a lot goes into identifying those key target industries. Another thing that's important to know, what those targets share, is that they all currently pay above the pay scale in Jonesboro, Arkansas, every single one of them. When we looked at our statistics in Jonesboro, and this will probably not be a surprise to you, but while our economy is great, over 23% of our population lives at or below the poverty level. And so as an economic development organization, our leadership commented and said, what can we do to change that? What can we do to improve the per capita income? What can we do to raise those income levels? And what we decided is we can focus our time and attention on the kinds of jobs that will really raise the economy. So all 5 of those target sectors pay at or above the current wage rate in our county. So it was not by chance that those were selected. It was part of a process that we used. Next, when we think about business attraction and expansion, I want to mention briefly a couple of things related to marketing. In this process of our strategic planning, there's a gentleman named Jeff Forsyth. Jeff works with McCallum Sweeney. It's a leading site location consulting firm in the United States, and they've done work in Jonesboro and actually have cited a company here in Jonesboro. And he described Jonesboro as a hidden gem. And I'll let you think about that just for a second. We love being a gym. I think all of us would agree having that designation is great. We don't love being hidden. And so part of this process of Momentum Jonesboro is to make sure that the people that need to know about Jonesboro and our assets know about Jonesboro. So we have a very thoughtful process in terms of our marketing, and I'll mention a few items that we're working on. And these are only just a few, because trust me, it's a pretty lengthy list. But if you'll go to JonesboroUnlimited.com, you'll see a new website that we launched earlier this year. That is the platform with which many of our other marketing initiatives will come from. It provides a wealth of information about doing business in our community. It provides great information from everything about the 10 great things about Jonesboro that Carrie White wrote, who's in the back there, all the way to incentives at the state level, how to do business in our community, and very specific things about our infrastructure and details about our industrial parks and buildings that we list on that site as well. So check it out. I think you'll find it of interest, and it's been very, very helpful so far. About 70% of all of our projects have a site location consultant attached to it. So it's important that we continue to communicate with that audience, if you will. So in the strategic plan and part of our marketing strategy are ways to be in front of those site location consultants more frequently at their location and bringing them here to Jonesboro as well. So we'll have additional meetings and work with site location consultants. An external marketing campaign that includes both social media, print, digital content, and testimonials, and much, much more. We've just started a process where we're interviewing some folks that are relatively new to Jonesboro to video them and hear their story. Why did they select Jonesboro? Have they been successful? What can other businesses and companies learn from their experience? And we think that will help us tell our story. We also will continue to visit corporate headquarters of our major employers. We do that now and have been doing that, but it's important for us to increase that. It's great to know the plant manager at our local facilities, and we do. We spend a lot of time communicating with all of our local companies, but it's equally important to have those relationships at the corporate level, because often that's where those decisions are made to expand here, to locate here, et cetera. So we want to continue to have great relations with our current existing employers and major employers, so we'll do that. We will continue to evaluate and improve our infrastructure. If you think about it, our industrial parks and the buildings that we have, that's sort of our product. So we have to be diligent to make sure that we have the kind of infrastructure in place, that we have the land, and that we have the infrastructure with that land to support additional growth as we move forward. I've mentioned this before, but in our current industrial park, we have 750 acres roughly that are available today. That industrial park, the Creative Technology Park, started off with 750 acres, and we've doubled it in size. The interesting thing about that is we have one tract of property that's 200 acres or above. Our average ask is for 100 acres. So once we do something with that particular piece of property, we're going to have to continue to look for additional property to support our activities as we move forward. We will continue to be an advocate for infrastructure improvements in terms of transportation. An opportunity is tonight. If you've not known this, or if you want to participate, tonight the Arkansas Highway Transportation Department is hosting a public involvement session at Nettleton High School to talk about the Commerce or Eastern Bypass that has been mentioned multiple times in the newspaper and other locations. So I'll be there if anybody wants to join me. Feel free to come on. It starts at 4:30 and I think goes till 7. But again, Jonesboro Unlimited and the Chamber and our economic development partners will continue to be advocates for transportation improvements in our area, because that spurs our economic growth. Also, we will continue to promote our infrastructure advantages that we have currently in our industrial parks. One of the things that people don't realize as you drive by our industrial park, there are 24-inch water and sewer lines, 20-inch water and sewer lines, 16-inch, 12-inch lines that serve our park. That has meant a great deal to our success. Same with electricity, and I can go on and on. But we call it plug and play, or being shovel ready. Our property is ready to be developed today. We do not have to wait to build something. We don't have to make a promise, if you'll give us 9 months, we'll extend that sewer line. And time again, that has been a tremendous advantage for us. And if you really think about not only the quality and the availability of that infrastructure, but the cost of infrastructure as well. City Water Light continues to operate in a way that gives us an advantage. Last year, the average industrial rate for electricity was 5.1 cents a kilowatt hour. Part of what we often do is we compare ourselves to our competitors, and it's great when I'm able to show a client that we can save them $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year on their electricity and water and wastewater. That gives a tremendous advantage, and we will continue to do that. And obviously, we'll continue to promote the designation of I-555, as I mentioned earlier. But creating jobs can't be done if you don't have a talented and skilled workforce. All of you in this room are business leaders, and you know that your business's success often hinges on the quality of the workforce that you have. And today, our unemployment rate is 2.8%. It's pretty low. And we have to do, as an organization, to continue to grow our workforce, to grow the skills that we need, and to really attract additional talent to our community as well. I'll talk briefly about some of the initiatives that we're doing along those lines. One is that we will continue to work to align our education and training with the needs of our targeted industries. I mentioned those targeted sectors a minute ago. We kind of know what kinds of workers that they want and need and the skill sets that they need, and we're identifying where gaps exist, right? So if a lot of our companies need welders and there's a shortage of welders, we want to make sure that we're doing what we can as an organization, working with our educational providers to make sure that we're targeting people who can serve in that capacity to be successful, just as one example. All of you guys know Jim Miles. One of our items of activity was to be an advocate for pre-K education and an advocate for the funding of early childhood education. Jim, early on, so if you know Jim, I'm seeing people smile that know Jim. It's a passion for Jim. So Jim approached us early on. He's part of Jonesboro Unlimited, and he said, "Do you mind if I take that on sort of as a committee chair?" And I'm like, "Go for it." He has done a tremendous job, and many, many other people are helping him with that initiative. But we'll continue to advocate for pre-K and for early childhood funding because we know that that's important to our long-term success. One of the initiatives that has been started recently is developing career pathways, and we're working with K through 12 to do that. But in particular, we've started with the IT industry. And we've gone to several of our IT companies, a couple of them are in the room today, and asked them, what kinds of jobs are located in Jonesboro? How much can people make? What kind of training do they need to have? And where can they go get that training? That's the kind of information that our students who are in 7th, 8th, 9th grade, all the way up through senior high, need to know. If they're interested in information technology, again, as one example, what do I have to do to be involved in that? So we've started that process, we've collected that data, and along the way, we've realized that most students don't want their information the way I want it. I know that's a shock to all of you. They want it in a different format. They wanted it displayed differently. So we have had the benefit, Shelley Randall in our office, if you guys know Shelley's doing a fabulous job. She is working with EAST students, environmental spatial technology students, to put this information in the kind of format that will be most user-friendly to them and most will be well received by them. So they're starting that process, and it's going well. Also, I'll mention to you that we continue efforts like Techstars. Techstars is a manufacturing camp for kids, typically ages 6th and 7th grade, and this year we had over 20 students participate in that. They are exposed to lots of different career opportunities within manufacturing. And so many of us take for granted that in manufacturing, you can have an accounting career, you can have an engineering career, you can have a nursing career in manufacturing, and obviously you can have a manufacturing career as well, whether you're a technical person, etc. So we really exposed them to that throughout that camp. And they actually made products. They made a Red Wolf clock that's really cool. And other products as well. They put together a conveyor system at Hytro. They made other products at Hytro. And really throughout the course of that camp, we're underscored sort of the career opportunities that are here in our community, and we're going to continue to do things like that. We are also working to increase the use of internships and apprenticeship programs in our community. We have a great educational system, and I know several of you are involved in our educational system. We're very fortunate, and if you've never lived outside Jonesboro, you may not realize how fortunate we are. But they are willing and able to work with us in all capacities, and are doing that through looking at internship opportunities and apprenticeship programs as well. So we think that's important, and much, much, much more along the lines of workforce development. Lastly, I'll mention too that it's important to enhance the quality of life in our community. You know, if you think about it, again, if we're trying to bring new people to the community, it has to be a place where they can work. It also has to be a place where they enjoy living and where their family enjoys living. And Jonesboro is a great community, but we have to all work together to continue to enhance that, those opportunities. You're doing that as a Rotary Club through your Centennial Project, and you've done that in past examples of Centennial Park out at Craighead Forest as an example. But we need to continue to promote investment in recreational amenities like those at Craighead Forest and Joe Mack Campbell Park and many other places. That particular committee has worked to put together a video for the young professionals recruitment effort, and the JYPN group worked on that and did a great job with that. The committee also has served as advocates for multiple quality of life projects. You'll see them at many of our city council meetings, and you're hearing and seeing more and more people talk about quality of life and the important role that that plays in our community, and that is part of their effort as well. Obviously, the continued revitalization of downtown is important, and that group will work on that too, and many, many other things too. But at the end of the day, it's about job creation. And our goal for Momentum Jonesboro is to create 2,500 net new jobs over the course of the next 5 years. If you look at both the indirect and induced jobs that come from those 2,500 jobs, that'll be a total of 5,100 new jobs for our community. That will have a tremendous impact economically. It's estimated by an economist that that impact would include an additional $294 million in personal income, $1.2 billion in new business output, and a return on investment of $27 for every $1 invested in Momentum Jonesboro. So we think the plan is important to our success as we move forward. We know that it will pay off, and we're hard at work. Now, keep in mind, we're 6 months into a 5-year program. The clock started ticking January 1 in terms of our 5-year goal and 5-year effort. I'm pleased to tell you, in terms of fundraising efforts, we are at 97% of our goal, and that's because of the generosity of this community and generosity of our business community. 78 companies and individuals have stepped up and made commitments for Momentum Jonesboro, and we're very, very appreciative of their commitment. So with that, I'm going to stop and pause and answer any questions you have. I do want to say this one last thing as I wrap up, and I do want to answer any questions that you have, though. This is important for us, and we're hard at work to implement this strategic plan, and we're hard at work to implement the full strategic plan. And again, 5-year process. We need your support. We need your participation. If you're interested in knowing more about Momentum Jonesboro, give me a call. I'll be happy to share additional information with you. If you want to be involved in a task force, please let me know. We have task forces, and several of you in here are on those, but we have them in marketing, we have them in quality of life, we have them in workforce development, infrastructure. So if you want to be part of those task force, let me know too, because we can't get anything done without your leadership and support and volunteering as well. So thank you for that. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I used to be involved in secondary education. The problem that I'm hoping that will be addressed through what you're talking about is the fact that kids in Bay, DIC, Lake City, Riverside over there, when they come in, their only outlet from a vocational standpoint is to go to Jonesboro. At Jonesboro, they offer about 5 offerings there. is there any way that ASU Newport, which is, they have a location, as everybody knows here in Jonesboro, can offer these things like you talked about, welding, other kinds of opportunities for these kids? The schools are already busing them in on a daily basis. It would be much further to bus them over to ASU Newport than it would to right here. So I just wish, and then I spent some time down in Poinsett County years ago. They have a vocational school, ASU does there. None of the schools in Poinsett County go to that vocational school. It's sitting right there in their backyard. And it just seems, and I kept asking people down there, why don't you folks get together and send these kids over here? And they're just sitting there. Most of those kids in those Poinsett County outlying areas, they're not college-bound students. They need something. They need electrical instruction. They need plumbers. They need those kinds of things. And we're sitting here with those needs, and yet we're not. It just seems like year after year. And I've been, excuse me, but from an educational standpoint, I've been trying to get people to move on this for years, and everything still stays the same.
I think your work is paying off. Real quickly, I'll tell you, his comment and question was really about secondary education and really an emphasis on technical skills training. Currently, there are offerings at Jonesboro High School, and I believe there are, I'm going to get this number wrong, probably 15 school districts across the region that are participating in those programs at the NEACTC, Northeast Arkansas Career and Technical Center. And they're doing a great job, and they've actually started some new programs recently in industrial maintenance as an example, and then also there's a drone program for students who are interested in that, as well as others, and they've had some traditional programs there as well. Second part of his question, though, was is there a way for ASU Newport here in Jonesboro to make some offerings as well? The short answer is yes, and they're starting to do that. One of the things that happened this year that you may know, Nettleton Public Schools allowed their students, when they were seniors, if they had a certain number of credits, to actually go and do other things. So as long as they had taken care of all their academic requirements, they could go to Arkansas State University, they could go to the technical school, they could go other places, they could go to work and do things that they needed to do to get prepared to go into their careers. And so there are examples that those things are going on, and I think that will continue to be the case. We have found that the school districts here and our partners like ASU Newport and Arkansas State University and other educational partners are very receptive to that. And so I think everybody's looking for that same, working toward that same goal. The other thing I'll mention is I can't remember a time in my 11, or actually 17 years in Jonesboro where there's been more collaboration between business and the educational sector. There may have been, maybe I'm paying more attention to it because we're in the middle of some of it, but the partnerships that exist, the collaboration that's going on is significant. So I think your hard work is paying off. So I appreciate your comment. Yes, sir.
3.5 million is what you've raised? Or
A little over that, yes, sir.
Give us a brief summary of the categories of where that's going to be spent.
So $2 million of that would be spent in business attraction and expansion. It actually is allowing us to hire 2 additional people. One individual will be hired as a director of communications. The other will be the vice president of economic development. Their sole focus is to generate more activity, more prospect visits, more inquiries for us to have, pardon the pun, it is All-Star Week, more at-bats. So we think that will continue to provide assistance to us. So $2 million in that category. $850,000 will be spent toward workforce development and some of the initiatives that I mentioned, and then $850,000 in quality of life. And in the quality of life piece, there, in that particular area, there are some, there's a budgeted item that allows us to participate in activities that would help promote the community. So it's things that maybe we're not responsible for, but we certainly can partner with others to do that would enhance the quality of life in our community. So $2,850,000, $850,000. Great question. Other questions? You guys are letting me off the hook easy. I so much appreciate it. Again, thank you for allowing me to be here. And secondly, thank you for all that you do for our community, both as business leaders and as Rotarians. So thank you so much.